Are you playing an offensive life or a defensive life? Are you letting things happen to you or do you make things happen? I'm going to be serving it to you straight as per usual today. And this is part two of my Golden 11 money rules that I have developed over the course of probably 20 years now and boiling it down to the key ingredients of what is going to make you life changing cash in your life without you burning out, without you sacrificing your happiness or your well being, and simplifying them all to you. So let's see where this goes today because I'm somewhat medicated for my allergies. So this is going to be interesting. If you're tired of hearing the same old basic mindset and motivational fluff talk, you've come to the right show. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast where we dish on everything from managing that crazy brain of yours to manifesting abundance to my straightforward, actionable steps that will make you major money online. Now, I'm not your typical multimillionaire entrepreneur. It takes a small village to keep my anxiety and depression in check. I'm inherently disorganized with an intense obsession with office supplies. Your girl here is a digital marketing content expert who's generated over $200 million in sales. I promise by tuning in twice a week, you will get a much needed refreshing dose of truth, clarity, and cash making advice. Now let's get to it. What up, my people, my posse, my fellow crazies? It's your unwell and rich host, Tiffany Carter. And this is the show that is going to get your bank account booming, your brain back in order, your abundance flowing, your relationships connecting, and everything in between. I have to give a disclosure before we really get into this. And I have pilled myself up. I had to pill it up. These allergies are kicking my ass. I am very open to any and all suggestions, my fellow allergy sufferers. You can DM me on Instagram or on TikTok at Project Me with Tiffany. Um, I need help. And I'm pretty well versed in this, but these really have grabbed a hold of me and have made me mentally not sound. I feel like my head is a balloon and I'm floating. And so we're going to see where this episode takes us. And thankfully, we're talking about one of my favorite subject matters, which is teaching you the straight up, simple, straightforward things that you need to know in order to change the money game for your life, in order to be able to make lifestyle changing cash. I was so mesmerized and mystified most of my life. And I grew up rich, okay? It was the house of horrors inside there, but I grew up well off, not like Hilton rich or anything like that, but definitely like new money rich. And I was so mesmerized by people who had money and families who had money where it seemed there wasn't as much effort. Because in my household, and some of you will be able to relate to this, I was raised by a single mom. Well, she wasn't really single. I mean, there was always a dude, but you know what I mean. And listen, this woman was a workaholic. I mean, she worked 12 to 14 hours a day running her company. This was no joke. And I was paying a lot of the price for that. It was a shit show, to say the least. And so when I would go over to other people's houses or observe people on TV, I would be like, how are they having this kind of money, but there isn't the same like abuse and drama and anger and work and craziness in their household? And it just seemed so strange to me. But I was exposed to a lot of evidence of people having this. But the primary evidence of wealth was obviously in my home environment, which supersedes everything. So some of you may have had a parent that had multiple jobs. You may have had a parent that worked, but that was never home. So there was a price that had to be paid for that wealth, which messes with your mind, right? It could have even been there was a price to pay and there wasn't that much money. So, oh my God, to even make more than my dad made or made more than we had growing up, that's going to mean even more of a sacrifice. So that's going to mean I would abandon my kids even more because we didn't even have that much. And look what happened. This stuff we have to unpack. And I got to say this, and I'm not going to stop reminding you of this. If you do not unpack the root of your money trauma, the money drama, which is typically tied to childhood trauma, and that doesn't mean you have to have the level of trauma I've had. Okay. It could have been dysfunction. It could have been innocent messages passed down from generations. Okay. It could have been shit from society and hardship and illnesses and all that crap put in there. If you do not address it and you keep going around it, trying to work around it, trying to ignore it, I promise you, it will grab a hold of you and you will never get ahead. And just when you get ahead, you'll end up going backwards. I've worked with over 150,000 people worldwide at this point from all different backgrounds. And I've seen this. So I really hope you hear me on this. And if you're like, well, what do? I hear you, Tiff. I know I'm in my own way. I know I'm the common denominator. I know I need to do this stuff. Like I've read books, I listen to your podcast. Like, what am I supposed to do? Your next move, if you want to have a rich babe summer, which I really hope you do, this doesn't need to be like, oh, this is going to take years to do this, years to change my money story. That is not true. That's a false narrative. Not approved by me, doesn't have to be the case, really. And this is not like me saying a get rich quick thing. What I'm saying is you get to shift your reality faster than you can ever imagine if you go all in with me on it. Because if you really think about it, it only takes one great idea. It only takes us unclogging that a hairball that's been clogging your abundance pipe for so long to get water flowing through it. So don't make it as hard as you're thinking it's going to be. In fact, that's one of your money noise issues. That's one of the things that's messing with you is you are really creating a narrative that it has to be hard. In fact, it is hard and you keep repeating it and then therefore it is. And therefore you have confirmation bias. How about we're going to experiment with doing things differently now? Just an experiment. Even if you gave me, can you at least give me until like a couple months? Just give me a couple months. You've already wasted God knows how many months and years messing around. Can you at least give me a couple months? There are a handful of new member spots left in the posse as of the time of this recording. They might already be gone. We cap our membership at an intimate size because it is a group coaching membership. And what is so unique about the posse and why it's so famous and why people rarely leave is because we combine both the strategy in you being able to monetize your gifts, passions, and talents online. So make money online, whether it's from an existing business or you're starting from scratch. You want to be bringing in extra cash so you can make more and work less and have fun while doing it. But we also do live and weekly live trainings from me and other special guest experts, real concrete money wound stuff, abundant stuff. Because if you leave that part out, a lot of you have a ton of information. You can Google a lot of shit. You can study people's stuff. You can reverse engineer it. A lot of you have like a course graveyard of shit that you've bought, shit that's been free, seminars, webinars, things that you've taken, but you've not implemented that information. And in fact, it's made you even feel more stuck, more confused, more overwhelmed, more information overload than ever. It's because you need to implement that information, but you're not going to get into action if you are financially, energetically, and abundantly constipated. It's like you've eaten 5 stacks of pancakes and have 0 fiber. And imagine what that feels like in your stomach. And all of you have felt this way. Like you've traveled, you've not had enough water. You know, you're so constipated. You feel bloated, you feel gross, you feel sluggish. You're trying everything. Nothing is giving you that release and you can't focus really on anything else, no matter how hard you try. That is what is going on with you when it comes to money. So we just need to get things flowing through you again. We need to be able to hydrate you. We need to be able to get things moving. And when you start getting things moving and you start seeing even the slightest little shifts and glimmer of hope, that is going to give you even more fuel to keep going and keep pursuing and being on that path for an abundant life. It's not as far away as you think it is. It's basically one giant poop away. Why am I going with this emoji? Emoji. That's what I had in my head. It was a poop emoji. I swear to God, I did not take a gummy. I just have lots of allergy meds in my system. And I had a poop emoji in my brain. In fact, I just shared on TikTok. I actually thought this video was going to be really hit people more, but I don't think TikTok really appreciates me talking about poop. That you can poop while manifesting. And I'm going to give you a little fun manifestation, little quick hit before I get into my golden money rule number 5. 1 through 4 is in part 1, which is episode 601. I have that linked in the show notes, and I have it also linked in the description here on YouTube. So you can go and binge that. I'm not doing consecutive parts in terms of the episodes. Like once every couple of weeks, I'll drop a new part because I want you to take some time to re-listen to the episode a couple times and start implementing the information and really allowing it to integrate in your nervous system, in your mind. But let's talk about poop festing. When you're going to the bathroom, even on your way to the bathroom, we all have, as one of my friends used to call it, she's like, I'm having sensations. We know when it's coming. I mean, obviously, if it's urgent, you don't have that much time, but you can do it. Where it's like, I'm releasing everything that is no longer serving me. I'm releasing everything that is no longer serving me. And you even consciously saying that, right? I'm releasing everything that's no longer serving me so I can be a container for more abundance. I'm releasing everything that's no longer serving me so I can be a container for more abundance. I want it to be something that's short, but why not multitask and manifest? Why not? That doesn't require any extra time. It requires almost no extra effort. So why not do that in little parts of your day, things that hopefully happen for you every day anyway. And then all those little things that you start adding up that you do end up measuring and helping you be in that abundant zone and or stay in that abundant zone longer. And because a lot of you will say, oh, I need to like make a point of changing my morning routine and my evening routine. And then you tell yourself the story. I'm going to do Tiffany's, famous abundance walks, which those are those in my show notes? They really should be, but they are in the link in bio on all my things on Instagram and TikTok, and they're free for you. I'm going to go start doing abundance walks, and I'm going to start journaling, and I'm going to start doing this. And like, it sounds so great. And then you might do it once or twice, and then you don't keep up with it because you've made it such a thing. It's like the lie you tell yourself about making content. If I just had like 1 week or 2 days or 1 day a week where I could just focus on creating content, then I would get all of it done. Yeah, but then if you give yourself that day, you fuck around and do something else. And then you tell yourself, I can't come up with anything. My brain isn't working today. I don't feel that great. So I would rather you, instead of setting yourself up where you have to do this whole giant routine, why not just pack it into your day and do micro manifestations all day long? Experiment with different things. That doesn't mean you're not also doing the abundance walks, abundance shower, abundance bath, right? That doesn't mean you're not doing those. But why not do the micro thing? And then the macro stuff that happens, that's fantastic. And if it doesn't, you're still covered. Okay. So poop festing is what we're calling it for the posse. And I clearly got off on some tangent about pooping. So there we go. I want you to go see if there's a new member spot. Trust that if there is, you're supposed to be in there. If it is full, the page will say so. Projectmewithtiffany.com/Project Me Posse. So it will very clearly say on the top that it's full. And then you'll just need to keep checking back to see if there's any new member spots that open up. But truly, even you coming in and watching even the last two replays will change the game for you. You'll see very quickly why this is a no-brainer. And if you do the year option, you get 2 months for free on top of it. You can also do the month to month, and that's only $100 a month. Like, you can find $3.33 a day, like, in order to be able to yield God knows how much more than that. Or you can continue messing around and not have a hot babe summer. That's all on you. Hot babe. I was supposed to say rich babe. Wow. We're going to be okay. I promise you this will be worth your time. I hope it's somewhat entertaining. And I need to have a sip of coffee. I feel like I've had way too many cough drops, and this is messing with my stomach on top of it. So there could be like an urgent pausing situation. Maybe that's why I went down the pooping path. If anything, I hope that me being mentally unstable right now is giving you some kind of entertainment while you're multitasking. Golden money rule number 5. These are in no particular order. And I did that on purpose because I know how some of you fellow crazies are. And you're like, oh, this one must be the most important. This isn't a countdown. Okay. So they're all equally important, just like ingredients to your special sauce, to a cake. You're not going to get the end result you want without all of them. And there you go. Number 5. Done is better than perfect. Perfectionism costs businesses and people more money than mistakes do. Isn't that interesting? That was number 5, and I didn't even realize that was number 5. And look at how imperfect and messy I am right now, and this episode is. And if you want to see me, if you're not watching already on YouTube, ProjectME TV, you'll get a visual. Like, I'm wearing a thermal shirt that I got peroxide face wash on it. So there's basically some bleach stains on it. I don't know when the last time was that my hair was washed, and I can barely hold my head up because I feel like my head weighs 5,000 pounds. I could have easily said to myself, you know what? I don't feel well. I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to give them one episode this week. But let's just use that as an example. Could I get away with that? Sure. I have over 600 episodes. There's plenty of episodes for people to listen to. But let's talk about the cascade effect of that. So let's say I did that. And it was like, then told myself, this is great self-care. You don't have to always follow through, Tiffany. You follow through all the time. People will give you grace. You're not feeling well, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's fast forward. Now I'm on the couch and I'm resting. And what do you think I'm doing? I'm resting maybe for an hour or two. I'm like, okay, this feels really good to rest, and that I didn't push myself to do the episode. And then what would creep in is my brain would be like, but all you were doing is talking, Tiffany. You could have even done the episode from your couch. You just launched an episode from the set you're building on a money bed, like you're in bed with a microphone. Like, you could have done this. And now people are going to wonder why you didn't do it. And could you have really done it? You get my point. My brain would have started going and would have started chewing. And then I would have had to have done work in order to get my brain to simmer down and calm down and soothe my brain and put the inner bully back in check. And all of that time and energy that I've spent doing that wrestling match, which for me is a wrestling match, which my guess is your brain does the same thing. I could have just recorded the fucking episode. So you've got to check yourself. This is not like I am going to some in-person influencer event and I have to get ready and I'm going to be around people and I'm going to have to get in the car and I'm going to be using all this energy and it's going to wear me out. Like I literally am sitting here looking at the ocean, listening to the waves, talking talking to you. Like this isn't hard. I want to be here. It's hard for me to even, the thought of me even drawing a bath right now sounds like a lot of work. So, what's the difference? So, it is better for me to just come on and do it. But what stops us is it feels so vulnerable because we're not at our best. Our brains aren't totally firing. We might not look our best. We might not be in the best mood. We might not be in the best vibe. And so then we say, well, we shouldn't do it because it's not going to be a certain way. It's not going to turn out this, that, or the other. No one fucking cares. And guess what? Maybe it was intended to not be perfect. You know what happens with all my stuff where I'm cringing, where I'm like, oh my God, I hope I made sense. I hope I was helpful. I hope I got a point across. I hope I didn't waste anyone's time. I know I was all over the place. I know I wasn't in the best, mood, blah, 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 blah. Those are my episodes and pieces of content and emails that without a doubt perform the best, that help the most people, that get the highest conversions. You know why? Because it's fucking real. And you know that I took a podcast hiatus and came back with the show for my 600th episode, where I'm like, you're getting the same great show you've gotten before, except this is going to be even better. This is the unhinged, unbothered, unfuckwithable version. So, how could I, in good integrity, really say that this is the unhinged version, even more so? But then I'm not willing to show up in more of a raw and vulnerable state when I don't feel like I'm at my best. Often, when we're not at our best, you actually deliver your best because your ego, you don't have the strength to have your ego in the way. So, here's something that I do in my business, and I have participated in this many times with multi-billion-dollar businesses. So you're getting a peek behind the curtain of what happens in a creative process in brainstorming and coming up with your next, million dollar, multi-million dollar idea. Is there's these things like that are called like think tanks, creative tanks. And they'll bring people in from all different backgrounds with different strengths, different personalities. And sometimes it's a week somewhere, sometimes it's a weekend. You can spend all day and you're spitfiring ideas, you're coming up with random stuff. And when the best ideas come about is when we're all worn out. It's when we get to a point of being comfortable with one another. And I do this with my own team for my companies now. And it's like our favorite thing to do. And you can do this version even as a solopreneur, right? You can do it by having your own little brainstorm team with people, or you can do it with all the personalities in your head. But when you get kind of worn down, you're tired, you've been like creatively brainstorming for hours now, and then you start getting kind of loopy and kind of silly, and then your barriers start coming down. The ego's kind of gone because you're like, fuck it. I'm not afraid of sharing an idea that seems stupid or whack or out there. We're just spitfiring now. Now, fuck it. You get to the zero fuck zone. Zero fucks given. You in that zone. And so then by the time everyone's tired, that's where some of the most wacky, best transformative ideas come from. I know you've watched these commercials, even music videos, product packaging, social media campaigns where you're like, who the hell thought of that? This person was high as fuck. Now, I'm not saying some people maybe weren't high as fuck, but you don't have to be, right? It's more so we've gotten rid of that ego that's going, well, what will people think? Oh, that's stupid. Who would even do that? Like, that's way out there. What if it doesn't work? Blah, 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 blah. If you don't take a shot at doing something totally different, you're just going to be more of the same. You're going to be more of the same basic vanilla. So Monday's episode was the first episode we did from the Money Bed Mondays. And even though I had this bed already set up for a shoot that I did last year, I never even thought about that could be the podcast studio. I just know I didn't want an in-person podcast studio that looked like everyone else's, with the mics and the chairs and the neon sign. I don't want to be like everyone else. And that's old news and everyone's doing it. And I'm not saying it doesn't look nice, but like, how about doing something that's just so out there and visually different and it has to feel easy and fun to me, or I'm not into it. And I'm not going to do in-person guests all the time because I travel. And quite frankly, it's a lot of energy to have in-person guests. It takes a lot, it eats a lot of time because you have to warm people up and be inviting and have them in your house. And then you have to have them feel comfortable. And then you can't just go, hey, see ya, bye, leave. You've got to be polite, like politely leave. So it's a lot of extra, time and energy. And so I still, though, want to experiment with it. So this perfectionism thing, what I notice works for people is the word experiment. We're just experimenting. I could have waited for this Money Bed podcast studio to be totally done for me to find the perfect custom sign. I want a custom sign done. And I don't want neon. I love neon, don't get me wrong, but I want something different. I could have waited for that sign to be done. I could have waited to make sure we had the proper cameras and the audio set up. And then I even went as far as, oh, should I make sure I have a videographer there? And then I was like, oh my God, now I'm making it so much work that now it feels so heavy. And now I don't even want to fucking do it. And I know you're doing the same thing with many other areas of your business. So how about we strip it all back? What makes it easy? What makes it sound fun? Let's experiment. And even if it's a disaster, guess what? That's going to be great content because it's on brand for me to not be perfect. It's on brand to be a total disaster over here because that's further proof for you guys. We do not have to have our shit together in order to be rich. In fact, you can stand out and make more money by not being perfect. It's the opposite because it's relatable. And if you haven't noticed, it's like, yeah, I'm not saying perfectionism isn't a vibe, right? Like the Kardashians have made their entire fortune on this, but if you're not, even if you are in the beauty world, it doesn't fucking matter. People are so tired of fake and being bullshitted by the government, by other people, just by propaganda. People want just real and raw, and they want to be made to feel like, okay, this person's like relatable. They're a real person like me. How refreshing. And it's the opposite of what you're thinking. So here's what I want you to be willing to do. Be willing to experiment, right? Like the clips and the video portion from our first test episode on the Money Bed, it's not the best quality of video. Oh, well, we still posted it. Oh, well, there's a lot of clips that I see on TikTok from profound teachers and leaders that have long since passed that were filmed, not even before even iPhones existed, and they're grainy and they're cloudy and they still have, hundreds of thousands of views. It's not that important, right? Like I don't, it's not like I'm trying to have things look janky, but it is what it is, right? Like put it out there. It's okay. And the audio's great. And the video is not the best quality and there's no sign. And so what? What I'm teaching you, what you're learning, how you're feeling, the energy that's being transferred, how it makes you feel, that's what fucking matters to people. and the fact that it's done and I did it. And who else have I given permission to just experiment by doing that? Right? I'm giving you permission to experiment by doing it, that it doesn't need to be perfect. And guess what ends up happening when you're willing to put stuff out before you have every little thing there? You make money in the meantime. All the money that you are leaving on the table by waiting for things to be figured out, waiting for me to know exactly what this is, waiting for me to have these pictures, waiting for me to have this thing. You could have been making money all along the way while you're doing different iterations and refining and taking people along the journey. And that's, what I said to everyone is, why not take people along the journey of building the set and seeing if I enjoy doing it, how it turns out, kind of like a home remodel. People love going along the journey of something and then seeing the before and after. It's interesting. It makes people feel like they're involved. And then all along the way, we're helping people. We are meeting new people. I'm getting new people in my audience, new podcast listeners. People are buying from me. People are having their lives changed versus me sitting back and waiting for all of that to be perfect, which guess what? My guess is, knowing me, it would just be a delay tactic. Perfectionism is really fear in disguise. It's a form of procrastination. And I could probably tell you, I would never have started doing that for the whole year. I could probably be very comfortable doing that. Never started it. And I could do all of it and you could put something out there and then go, you know what? I don't love this. Like it's more work than I thought. It's not really worth it. It's not paying off, but at least you fucking did it. At least now you know, and now you're closer to knowing what will work, what would be worth it for you. There's no way to perfect a sauce that's been passed down for generations without trying a little tidbit of this, a little tidbit of that, a dash of this, a dash of that. Oh, what if we put this in it? There's no way of having that sauce get to that level of perfectionism without trying things and batches not working and things having to be thrown out and things being a fail. Why aren't you willing to do that for your business? That doesn't mean you can't be making money along the way. It's not all or nothing. You're doing this black and white thinking. It's either perfect and it's all a go and it's ready, or it's terrible and no one's going to buy. This is the furthest thing possible from the truth. Okay, let's go to money rule number 6 before the rest of these meds kick in and I can't even form a sentence. Be highly selective who you share your dreams with, your goals with, and your ideas with. The more you share them, the less likely you will achieve them. What? I know you're like, wait a second, what? Isn't that like the opposite of what you talk about with manifestation, that you need to speak things into existence? What I'm saying is sharing them with other people. A lot of you are great at the talk, and you're being called out lovingly right now. You're great at the talk. I did it too. Remember, it took me 10 years to get off my ass and go all in on ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and business coaching brand. Okay. And reminder for you to join the damn posse membership, because once these spots are full, I don't know if there'll be any open for months. So I wouldn't mess around with that. The annual option, you get 2 months for free, or you can do month to month. If it were me, I'd do the annual, because that is you showing a very clear commitment that you're going to show up and do the damn thing. And all the details are on the information page. There's a gazillion testimonials on my Instagram stories, in the highlight section of my Instagram. I mean, tons and tons and tons and tons. And of course, on the page, projectmewithtiffany.com/projectme posse. Link in bio on all my things. And you can swipe up. It's in the show notes or in the description here on YouTube. Wow, am I impressed I was able to say that. Really, like, I think that was outer body with me talking. That was crazy. I feel like I'm really high and I am all I'm on are like really strong allergy meds and I took an albuterol inhaler. So I was having a hard time. I was like wheezing. Wow. I really hope that this is adding some spice to this episode. Here's why. Just sharing what it is you want to do, what you dream of doing, what you wish, your manifestations, your visions, your goals. As my grandma used to say, talk is cheap. We can talk, 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 talk. But if you're not taking action, none of it matters. So there's that part of it. If you're someone who is regularly talking out what it is you want to do, what you no longer want to do, and I understand a lot of you are verbal processors. Obviously, I am, right? Like, I get it to a certain extent. But if there's been really no forward momentum on it, you need to stop talking and start doing because what happens is our brains are so manipulative. You talking about it will trick you into believing you've taken an action. It'll make you think, oh, I've had this great meeting. I've met with someone. A lot of people will want meetings with me. Can I take you for coffee and pick your brain? Can we go for lunch? Do you have a few minutes? No, I do not. You can pay me. You know why I do that? It's not just because I value my time. I do it with friends too. It's because if I don't put money on it where they're being charged for it, all they're doing is tricking themselves into believing they're taking action by having a conversation with someone like me. And it makes them feel good and pacified in the moment. And then they take no action. I know this. And I'm here to help you help yourself. And I'm not going to enable you. So I know you've done enough of that. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is if we are not really highly cautious and selective of who we share our visions and dreams with, people innocently and not so innocently will project their shit on us. People who care about you might, I see this a lot with family, right? They don't even someone's partner. You want to go do something. You want to start a clothing line. You want a jewelry business. You want a podcast. You want to start coaching people. You want to do retreats. And the person wants to protect you from potential disappointment, from potential failure, and they already see you're already so stressed with the kids and you already work so much, and they'll go, well, that's going to be a lot of work and that's going to be a lot of time, and then there's their own selfishness involved. Well, that's going to be even more time, less time I get with you and less time for you to do the things that I like that you do for me. And people put all of their own shit in there. And what's happened with me, and something that I can tell you I've really experienced wildly between 2022 and for sure today. And if you're dealing with, I called it the year of the reckoning, was 2022, where I was bamboozled and side blasted by, oh, it was a clearing. It was a clearing of people that did not need to be in my life anymore in order for me to rise. And I tend to hold on to people for long past their expiration date because once I let somebody in, I don't want to have to let them out. It takes a lot for me to trust somebody. It takes a lot for me to open up in that way. And it feels so good to have those people, but then it starts not tasting so good anymore. And then I make excuses and then I hold on to them for far too long. And then I start paying a price, but the price is like so gradual. I don't realize how much it's costing me until I'm in so much pain. I know you can relate because you're likely a fellow people pleaser, codependent like me, and an overgiver. So if you want to go back to 2022, like you need help with that stuff, there's a lot of episodes where I am beyond raw, in a raw state through that. And we cannot climb and reach our goals and get to where we want to go in one piece, meaning without us being totally burnt out, sick, exhausted, and a mess, we can't do that by carrying dead weight. And a lot of you are carrying dead weight. So when you will share with some of these people who aren't well, who are toxic, who are not, not doing their own work, who have jealousy towards you, who are miserable in their own lives, who want to stay a victim, who are committed to their victim story, who are committed to being a victim of their current circumstances, and you tell them that you want to go to this level in your business, you want to help millions of people, you want to do this new thing, you want to create online courses so you can have a passive income arm of your business, whatever it is, anything you can think of, they aren't really that happy for you. You're not really getting that great support, that great cheerleading. In fact, a lot of these types of people will throw shade and microaggressions. And I had that going on. And I did realize it a little bit, but not fully to the extent, because when we're in the middle of something, it's hard for us to see it. There's an acronym in one of my recovery programs I'm in called FOG, when you're dealing with toxic people of any kind. And it could be someone who's a nice person. They don't fucking realize how toxic they are. Okay. I call them unrealized toxic people. FOG stands for fear, obligation, and guilt. So they have you in a fog, whether it's conscious or unconscious. You're not seeing things clearly. There's been hurts and microaggressions and things that have happened enough over time. And the cost, like I was saying to you, that you are paying has been in these increments over time. So you're not really realizing how big of a price you're paying, how exhausting this energy is on you, how much this particular person is holding you back, how much of dead weight they really are in your life, until you remove yourself and you detach yourself. And I guarantee you right now, there's people coming to your mind. You could be fucking married to someone. It could be one of your own kids. And what I need you to do is to energetically detach. You need to consciously do it, even if you can't physically do it right now. And if you can physically do it, I need you to do that too. You don't have to give someone some big explanation. You don't have to have a powwow. Most of these people can't hear you anyway, and it's not safe to do so. You need to cut that rope that you have. Picture you have a rope. You're climbing a ladder. Maybe not a ladder. Let's say you're climbing up a really like a steep hill, but at the top, you know that it's the most gorgeous view. It's free. It's light. It's expansive. You see it. You know there's a way up there, and you are willing to do the work to get up there. You're going to do it. You've seen other people do it. Maybe I'm at the top saying, you want to be up here. Like, yes, you're going to sweat, and yes, you're going to be sore for a while, but it's worth it. You're coming up here. So you have the path, the trail, you know the way. But right now, you have a rope that is tied around your neck, and then that rope is tied around someone else's waist. You might have 3 people. So now you are climbing this hill with that around your neck, that you are dragging these people up. And then one of them wants to stop. Oh, it's too hard. I can't do it. I don't feel good. You're going too fast. I'm uncomfortable. So now you're having to stop, because if you don't, you'll get choked out and die. Right. And then next person has some issue. They were stubborn and they refused to wear the shoes you told them to wear, and they refused to properly hydrate. So now you're stopping for them. Do you see that analogy? You are just continuing to delay yourself from getting to where it is you want to go, and you're allowing these people to hold you back. You've got to cut that rope. They're adults and they're responsible. And some of you were like, well, it's my kids. Well, obviously, if they're minors, right? We can have a different conversation. But even if they are minors and you have a kid that's like really difficult, mm, mean that doesn't mean that you are responsible for them, but you're also using them as a crutch and an excuse from not going forward. And some of you aren't going to like that I've said that, but listen, I'm saying what I'm saying, and it's because it's true. So you're actually being a victim. The very thing that you can't stand some of these other people that have popped in your mind that they're doing, they're a victim, their words and actions don't match. You know, they don't really they don't seem like they want any more for their lives. Da 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 da. They always complain, they never do anything about it. Well, you're kind of doing it too, unless you cut that rope because it's like, my sister, blah, 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 blah. My husband's always saying blank. Well, my business partner, well, blah, blah, my team. You're being a victim to these other people that you're choosing to have your rope tied to. That's a choice. And I've done it. And I end up tying my rope sometimes to someone without realizing it because my guess is you're likely a very tenacious, strong person who has a high tolerance for pain and discomfort. And in fact, that might be more familiar to you. It might be more familiar to you to be on the struggle of trudging up that hill than being able to walk up it effortlessly and freely because that you don't trust because that's so unfamiliar. When things are so easy like they are right now in my business, I'm like, my eyes get really open. Like, can I trust this? Am I going to lose anything? What's going on? This feels weird. It's just because it's unfamiliar and we're doing things in a different way now. But there are people that, even if it's innocent, their own shit is preventing you completely or heavily delaying you from getting you to where you want to go, where you know you can go, and you've got to cut it. And whoever has come to your mind right now, trust that you're hearing this for a reason. And you've got to do regular clearings. Okay. I teach all this stuff. I've been in recovery and therapy for a zillion years. And we end up, collecting some stuff along the way. Or sometimes people who were actually an asset and helpful and kind of giving me a push up that hill, they end up going through their own shit and they end up being a dead weight. People shift, they go through stuff. So you have to do a regular assessment. Someone stops doing their work or your light becomes far too bright for them to handle. And it makes them so uncomfortable. And envy is so nasty. Maybe they were only meant to get you up the first quarter of that hill, be there along that part of the journey. They weren't meant to be at the 50% mark. They weren't meant to be at the 75% mark. And as painful as it is, it's okay. What's more painful is you continuing to drag. We're not dragging anybody anymore. It's already enough work, don't you think, to drag ourselves to drag myself to be able to coherently give you this podcast right now. I already had to drag myself. I'm not interested in dragging anyone else. And you know what? You're not helping anyone by dragging them. You're enabling them. No one will appreciate it. Even if you drag people and you're bloody and you're exhausted and you drag them to the top of that mountain. You want to know what those kind of people do? Because I've done this before. And the top, they sabotage it. They don't appreciate it. You kind of think that they'll be so grateful for all the riches and all the abundance that's up there. But because they really didn't do the effort themselves, a lot of times they sabotage you because they're resentful of you getting there and they know they didn't do anything and they're consumed with guilt and shame over it. Isn't that fun? I love you guys so much. I hope you're loving hearing these money rules. I'm sticking with just doing 2 today, 5 and 6, because I felt these were pretty heavy. Plus, I can sense that we're going to another layer of unwellness in my brain. And I don't know if I want to go to this layer. Like, I am starting to really fixate on my tongue inside my mouth as I'm talking and all the movements it's making. And my guess is now it's time to say goodbye. Wishing you great health, wealth, and worth as always. Love you so much. Don't forget, get in the posse, Project Me with Tiffany Carter. Oh my God, projectmewithtiffany.com/ Project Me Posse. It's the show notes, okay? I'm gone. Bye. We're out. Love you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.